Good morning, guys, and I'm on this video, and before I have to go and do some errands, it's just something I have to talk about, particularly if you are dealing with narcissistic parents, or they like to argue with you or make you feel as though you are incompetent, and then that's when the fight escalates. And yesterday my mom just to bring up situations, circumstances that I need to do for my son. For example, he needs speech therapy, which I'm going to make the contact and all that. And sometimes when you're dealing with a mother like who just insists on having things her way, or insists on saying things that she doesn't need to say, it triggers something inside of me that's just like bam, that's where the bomb sets off, and it drives me crazy. I can't seem to hold on to and realize that this is not a healthy thing. But when you're dealing with narcissistic parents, or dealing with parents who just has to, put their 2 cents in everything, because I've done it too, because this is something I've learned from my own parents, it can really set you off. Like, it's just like you don't want to put your 2 cents in. I have a friend of mine who does this too, and I'm just like, okay, back off. Let me do my thing. I'll get back to you in a minute. Chill out. He's one of my good guy friends, and I really, like, he does this to me sometimes. I'm like, I get it. Let it go. So when he tries to pick food from me, I'm like, yeah, no, let's not do that. But it's really honestly evaluating the situation. And when you're dealing with your own anger triggers, you have to understand your triggers, what's going on. Like, why is it that this is affecting me? And why is this occurring? Like, it's a mind-boggling situation where you want to not react, but sometimes it's a learning curve for anybody who's dealing with narcissism, borderline personality disorder individuals. It's a learning curve where you have to be very honest and really see things effectively, because I know there are times when I tend to get upset, or sometimes I bark commands. Like, I have this aggressive stance sometimes, and I realize, like, I gotta tone that down a little bit, because I've grown up with a military background, so I've grown up with the parents who bark commands at me all the time. So realizing it doesn't always help, I have to be very honest about why am I, what am I trying to communicate. But when I'm dealing with certain parents, like when you're dealing with parents who are not willing to understand, to just back off, it can really create this dissension, and you don't need any more of that. Like, I was dealing with a lot of anger as it is. I was dealing with a lot of emotions, and I was dealing with circumstances that my mother was trying to control when it comes to my own kid. And it's just like I can't even parent my own kid just living with her, because every time I try to parent him, they undo everything. And people say, oh, why can't you just move out and do all that? Well, the thing is, I have lost a lot of income. I've lost a lot. So after 5 years of trying to rebuild myself, it's not easy just to, walk up and get out. You have to methodically plan things out effectively, and just not only that, you have to be honest about how you're making this adjustment. And I had to be very clear about this. I had to be very clear about my own actions with my own parents, and how I talk to them, and really understanding where they're coming from too. But it's about evaluating the situation for what it is. When you're dealing with narcissistic parents, you have to understand that they don't care about your needs and wants. They only care about the control that you end up, it's about the control that they can have to actually have in the end. A lot of people don't want to talk about narcissism or borderline personality disorder, because they don't want to be able to admit that there might be something in them that might be the case. But in order to improve, you have to be very honest about it. You have to be very honest about your own inner core. And this is why I journal every day, because I realize journaling has helped me put things back into perspective, and understand the nature of surviving this mental torment that keeps happening. So you have to be very, very upfront, and you need to be very direct and understanding the nature and all of this. I'm not saying this is an easy thing, but it's just knowing when you do the work, you have a better chance at the outcome that you want. So with my parents, particularly, what I do, it's from yesterday, it was a little bit different, but it was just knowing that the reaction that they create, and my mom calling me mean, it's just because the fact that I'm always so exhausted. Like, when she knows how to nitpick me when I'm really extremely exhausted, when I'm tired. There are times when I do go to the gym and work and I come back, but I feel extremely tired, and it's when it's like she lunges, it's like she lunges at me like a tiger, and I was just like, oh my God. And this is why I had to be very careful when it comes down to watch my emotional reactions, understanding my own emotional, and take care of my own emotions, and try to avoid conversations that will hinder growth, or hinder the factors of developing that frustrated connection. It's just knowing the factors of them. I've grown up with a narcissistic mother. I have understood the nature of narcissism. I understood the nature of borderline personality disorder. I thought I was narcissistic. I've grown up with traits of narcissism. So when you've grown up with traits of narcissism, you have to be very understanding that you are, because whatever you've grown up with, you've learned the same patterns of behaviors in your current situation, and then you project your issues onto other people because the fact that you haven't dealt with them. So it's growth. It's about really learning to unlearn patterns of behavior, where you can't really unlearn them. You need to change habits for another habit, but you're becoming more aware. So awareness is key when it comes down to it. I'm not saying this is an easy thing, but the whole concept is really understanding how to not sabotage your life because of the fact that you've grown up with parents who are not emotionally understanding, or they care. They seek attention. They want something from you. They expect things to go their way. They don't really want to understand and self-regulate. So even though they can't self-regulate, you have to self-regulate yourself, because you have to be able to control your inner core in order to have a healthy relationship with other people down the road. So that's something I was dealing with. So yesterday was just one of those days where I'm just like, when my mom was also mentioning about the toy my son picked out for my sister's dog Winston, and she was kind of telling me that, you wasted just your money about this. I'm like, I didn't waste money. Jeremiah picked it out. Okay, Jeremiah wanted me to buy this toy, so I did. Because of the fact that we went off to Lahaska, which is a town called Peddler's Village, which I love going into. It's a very quaint little small town where there's a lot of shops and a lot of good places to visit. So it's about maybe a 14-mile drive, which is maybe an hour, maybe the most. I mean, hour and a half, depending on traffic. I got there within an hour. So because I went into the afternoon time where there was no traffic at all during the day. So maybe less than an hour and a half. I forget. I think maybe it's 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, but I'm like, you know what? If that's what Jeremiah wants to do, that's what Jeremiah wants to do. I'm going to buy the toy because it will make Winston happy. It will make Jeremiah happy that he did something for the dog, So it's just knowing that small little gift. And my mother was telling me, you just wasted money. You just, you shouldn't really, I that just triggered me. I'm like, you know what? Stop it. Just stop. And then she will go off already saying, I'm being mean, I'm being disrespectful. You know what? You're being disrespectful because you're making comments that doesn't need to be made. You just stop. Enough is enough. And it's just really hard to set boundaries, because when you're dealing with these types of people, they will cross those boundaries all the time to the point where you're just like driving yourself mad. But I did, and I lost that cool. And it's like, you want to be able to move forward in this relationship. You can't just have a normal relationship. There is no way of having normal relationships with these people, because the fact that they have to always be in control. I had to learn to do this. I have done this multiple times, and I realize the nature of my action when it comes down to it. But it's awareness, So the more aware that you are that you're doing it, understand the fact that you can change it. So I had to understand my parents, that some things that are not going to change. My grandmother was the same. My mom and my grandmother are pretty much the same people, except, yeah, I don't know how to describe that, but that's what they do. And then afterwards, it's kind of like trying to understand the nature that, that's what they've grown up with. Asian parents can be very difficult to handle sometimes. But that's what I had to understand, is that my parents are dealing with narcissism and borderline personality disorder. You have to understand the nature of recovery within the self, understand waking you up from the natures of individuals who are not willing to change their own perspective in life. So we have to be very honest about this. We have to be very upfront about this. This is why awareness is necessary. But I'm sharing this information with you because I think it's very helpful, and I want to get it out there before I forget to do this, before I forget. So. But that's something I had to understand. So I hope this video helps for those of you who are watching. I just want you to be able to get a sense of awareness that, you have to understand your own triggers. Understand that, whatever brings out the worst in you. Understand that that's what they want, because they want to make sure that you're the mean one. And I'm just like, and I tend to do that. I'm like, oh my God. But it's something that you have to be understanding within the self, understanding that narcissists will try to push buttons, trigger things, and it's like they pounce on you when you're just not in the mood to talk. This is when you have to be you're gonna win some battles, you're gonna lose some battles, and that's just gonna be given. But the more aware you are, you have a better chance of having the outcome that you want for yourself and the sanity that you want, protecting your own child. I'm trying to protect my own son from this, But it's not easy. A parent can only go so far, and yet we do our best to make sure that we are well equipped in the end. So anyways, I'm gonna get going. Please subscribe to my channel, push that notification bell, and I will talk to you guys real soon in my next video.